Hey folks, welcome back. This is episode 4. I'm trying to sneak in here. Sorry, pardon my back. I have to keep mixing here to stay on track. I have about 2 minutes left on this stirring cycle. This epoxy is just starting to clear up. It's amazing how this stuff goes through changes as you mix it. That's why those mixing times are critical. I had hoped to shoot this yesterday. It's been a day off since episode 3 and this one. But one of the things I may have mentioned is it goes as it goes, and sometimes you have to sit there and wait. I had a couple of drips and some thicker spots on this that I tried to sand out. Once again, they were proving problematic because they hadn't cured solid. That's what happens with these little thick drips and stuff. So I let it go overnight again. Even though I managed to keep the shop fairly warm yesterday, it didn't accelerate the cure at all. So I had to wait. And then this morning when I came in, I checked the temp on the bar itself, which was only about 56 degrees, the same as the shop was. And that's too cool. But those bad spots that I couldn't sand were now cured, and in just about 2 or 3 minutes I was able to sand them all off, smooth it all out, did a quick cleaning up sand on all the other surfaces I plan on doing now, and we are good to go. So it's about 2 o'clock in the afternoon on a beautiful Thursday. Still what I got in the stove seems to be a slow learner, and it hasn't taken off yet. So the temperature in here is about 62 degrees. The actual temperature of the bar right now is 61. Not ideal. I'd like to have it up in the mid 70s, but oh well, what are you going to do? Got to keep moving and strike while the iron's hot, as they say. So I will do this. I know that in the next couple of days I may be out in the woods cutting mushroom trees and doing other outdoor type stuff. So this will have, get another 36 hours or so, 48 before I do the next step. We'll see how this comes out. So as I said, I did some sanding on it, on this edge. I wiped it down again with mineral spirits. I had a bunch of spots that hopefully this shows up in there because I don't know where the frame is. Here and here and there. There's one right there that I pointed out in a prior video had not quite come out the way they should. They soaked right into the wood and left it a little rough. So you notice I resanded all of that stuff because it helps get a flatter surface across the top of the epoxy now that it's soaked in. And that's all sanded. All the little blue tape that I stuck here and there, and there's one down here somewhere, I just moved those to the side so I have a corresponding location and I can make sure I hit them, although I'm sure I will. And looking at the clock, I am at the end of my mixing time, and amazingly, just now, this little cup started to warm up, which tells me it's time to boogie. So, take my little mixing stick, put that where I can get at it if I need it. Check the slab temp again. Yeah, getting close to 62. It's 61.8 degrees. Except for the main one. Alright. So, I know you can't see me down here too well, if at all. My goal here is to fill in the cracks around this, where the shot glass shelf meets the bar itself, even though it's a real nice tight joint. And I spent a lot of time fitting up. It still has wood to wood joints, and I want to make sure that I get epoxy in there so that when there is a spill, that joint doesn't soak up anything. No booze, no beer, no water, no milkshakes, no ice cream, no nothing. And it'll be much easier to keep clean. And if it can keep that stuff out, it can also keep out the stuff Mother Nature throws. If it gets rained on by accident or snowed on during a really exciting party, there will be no moisture that gets in there to start causing rot and decay. So, just doing some stuff on the top edge here. I want to get all the surfaces that are laying horizontal right now, because they will be vertical on the next hole. I doubt very much that you can hear the music in the background, because if you can, that means YouTube is going to flag me and tell me I can't publish. I guess that would be a benefit for you guys, because you don't have to watch this, but I would rather not have all this time go to waste and get lost. I can't do this twice. But I have Patsy Cline playing in the background, one of my favorite albums. Some of her really good ones on it. A lot of her really good ones on it. And relaxes me and allows me to focus on what I'm doing and enjoy it. Every time I hear Patsy these days, I think of a local artist that her husband is in a bluegrass group. She sings with them once in a while. And boy, I tell you what, I've heard few people that can bring out Patsy Cline like this gal does. But I haven't seen her in a while. In fact, last time I saw her was at a funeral, so that wasn't pleasant. These little edges take a lot of time. But I want to get it all. Oh, by the way, that gal is, her name is Fran Bruno. She sings with, a few groups, I guess, but almost always with the Saturday Night Bluegrass Band, which used to play every Thursday night at the Harmony Cafe. Those boys are still in business. Oh, there's a hair. Oh, there we go. I got it. But the Harmony Cafe is not the Harmony Cafe anymore. It's a different restaurant now. And they're having different kinds of music up in Woodstock. Boy, this stuff feels like it's going on thick already. I don't know why, it's too soon. Anyway, I see the old boys and gals every once in a while. And, hopefully when COVID gets a little in the rearview mirror, we'll be back to what it used to be. I used to go out 2-3 nights a week sometimes, just to catch the music. There were gigs all over the place, but COVID killed that, that's for sure. You should know that I am fighting like mad to not start singing along, because I love these tunes. I don't know if her stuff is still in copyright or not, but I imagine it is. Should be. It's timeless. But I can get that edge better the next time around. But right now it's that corner. Thin coats. I will say that when this comes out, it's gonna look, this is gonna be nice. Nothing's perfect. I'm never happy with what I make. It could always be better, and I could have, should have, would have done this or that. But, oops, I dribbled. Take that, just smooth it out. Easier to sand off later. Last time when you watched this, I did a 3-ounce mix, and that turned out to be an awful lot. So I managed to do that entire face of that other project. This time I only did 2 ounces, and hopefully this will be closer. Really don't want to waste this stuff by going crazy and pouring too much. Always look back at what you just did. I'll be over this again, but the epoxy is going to get thick, and I'm cutting this close as to how much I mixed this time, so closer anyway. So yeah, this is boring stuff. You gotta work like mad to get the epoxy on fast, but also not miss any spots, not have any drips. It can't be sloppy. I know this isn't the dramatic full pour like you see on those fancy river tables that everybody likes to build. And I'm not criticizing anybody for what they choose to make. It's their muse. They gotta follow it. But I often look at those river tables that are 2 live edge slabs that are joined together by epoxy, and I think, my gosh, that's an awful lot of plastic. Yeah, they look pretty. They take a lot of time. But I'll bet you they gotta have a couple $100 worth of just the epoxy material in there. And if you make a mistake and the pour opens up and it spills all over the floor overnight while it's drying and curing, well, let's just say that's gotta be disappointing. So, I had that on one of the first pours I ever did. It was a nice hot day. I was learning. Set up the slab on a couple of sawhorses right outside this door in the driveway. I was in a hurry because I was trying to make a table to take to a music festival with me where I was camping for a week. So I tried to do the whole thing in one shot. By golly, if the tape job that I did on the bottom didn't leak. And it all wound up on the ground. And I gotta tell you, the only thing that's harder to get rid of than dried and cured epoxy is concrete when it's poured in the wrong place. So I still have pieces of that I dig up with the snowplow once in a while. It's probably a quart worth of stuff. Or translated, about $75 worth of epoxy. So anyway, coming around the corner here, and this is what I like. Corners are points of attention. They can either look really ugly or really sexy. So I really like to pay attention to them and get the corners and any edge blends as nice as possible. And this is gonna look super. Sometimes it's hard, but I gotta remember that I'm making this for a client, not for myself. So it doesn't matter what I like. What matters is what the client likes. And I know this client pretty well. They, I should say, are good repeat customers. Um, they seem to like my stuff, and I try and make them happy. And they know sometimes I drag my feet because I'm trying to think it through, and I may not be happy with the ideas I came up with yet, so I keep thinking about it. I just hit 2 of those spots that were bad last time. Now I'm going to go underneath. This concerns me because now I have a 45-degree upsloping surface. Any of you folks that have ever tried welding upside down know that if you're not a real good welder and know what you're doing, it can be challenging. Well, epoxy is a little similar, except the weld will harden up pretty quick. Epoxy, not so much. So 3 hours later, it could decide to develop a drip. And as this is my third time over the surface, I really would like it to come out nice. I don't mind doing it over, but I don't want to have to rehash the whole thing completely. Oh God, that's starting to look nice. Real nice. Yeah, it's getting a little thick there. I don't see no misses down there. Now I got good light. No misses down here, but there's always a spot where you can do better. And this is the one. You know, I want to get a little bit over the corner so that anytime you have 2 surfaces that are 90 degrees to one another, like this front edge and the back edge and the bottom, that very corner where those 2 surfaces meet, whatever you put on it, whether it's paint or stain or epoxy or anything, gets very thin at that immediate corner because there's not much surface there to hold any material while it dries, cures, or soaks in. So I always try and get the wraparound part of the corner so that when I do the adjacent surface, it has something to marry up to. So that's all I'm doing here is that a drip? Yeah. Any drips that I see, I just spread them out with my finger. That way, when they harden up, remember that issue I had with, had those drips that were lumps? Because the lumps were so thick they didn't cure. So that's why I squash them out with my finger and just drag them out. Now I won't have a lump, I'll just have a smear. And when I sand it later, it'll cure quick and then it sands out lickety split. Takes a couple of seconds. And that is about it. And look at that. I hardly got any, I don't know if you can see that, there's not much left in there at all. So I timed that out pretty good. Of course, I'm going to get greedy and add some more here. I wanted to keep this one shorter because it's the same as the other day pretty much. Oops, there's a little spot that could look better. Of course, I can always touch that later. As long as I'm here and I got a little more epoxy, I'm going to do this edge. By the way, I did look at the package when I took this brush out. They come 36 to a package, and I forget if they're $1.39 or $1.89 a package. So, you do the math. My fingers are busy right now with their cheap brushes. I don't like to waste stuff, you know. I don't like to throw stuff out. But I have yet to figure out a way to clean out anything that I use epoxy on. Okay, working in the blind. Oops, I touched it. Don't touch Just gonna go give a quick look. I see no, this surface looks kind of, well, we'll see what happens when I hit it with the torch. Oh, there's one right there. My mom used to call these holidays. So did my dad. This is why I hate painting till this day. Because my mom would look at my painting when we were doing a room and she'd say, "You got a holiday there, you got a holiday there, you got a holiday there. Are you paying attention?" And I hated that, so. Good Lord, I gotta tell you, Patsy Cline has some voice. I wish you could hear this, but the YouTube cops would give me a hard time. So the drip I can smear out. So what do you think? You know what I think, dirty thoughts most of the time, but I don't share those. Oops. Yep, just smearing some of the smudges out. Alright, let's get that torch. Just back by the wood stove. Here's the other project I'm going to work on, but I don't have much epoxy in there at all. There we go. I know that you can't see it. You might not even be able to hear me on this torch. But when I run this torch down, all those little ripples just lay right flat. As soon as I get that stuff hot enough, and I'm not trying to set it on fire, that's by any means. The last thing I want to do is tell a good client, "Oh, I was doing real good on that bar till it all went up in flames." Whoops, like that. Oh, it smooths out those ripples and the drips. So one more spot I can hit. And if you ever do, now this is thin brush, so a lot of the problems that you get with epoxy don't often happen with thin brush. The big thing is when you brush it on thin, you can get brush hairs in it. So once I get a brush hair in, that means that whole area has to be re-sanded. And it's usually not the end of the world, but it just means you got to back up, because every time you got to do more epoxy, that means another 24 hours at least. So hit that again. The heat allows any air bubbles, I was going to say oxygen, but I think it's air, that gets in the epoxy to come right to the surface and pop. If you do a thick pour and you just take a cup and pour this stuff in, I don't know, holes, cavities, or on the surface, you'll see tiny little bubbles, and sometimes it's air that's outgassing from the wood because some epoxy found its way in and pushed the air out. One wipe with the torch and they all just pop. So there is that. But this is looking real good. I'm gonna just run down this backside with the torch, and I got no epoxy left over to do the other project. which may sound bad, but it's not, because I like to focus on one thing at a time, and I got a lot of hours in this bar so far. So I'll leave you with that. And howdy to all the guys and the gals on the forestry forum one more time. And we will be back at it when we're back at it. Right now I'm thinking it's going to be 36 hours, but let's see what happens. If the next time the video comes on and you see the bottom of the bar facing the ceiling, that's a good thing, because that's the goal. I just don't know if I'm there yet. Everybody be well, stay warm, and we'll catch you next time.